is its audio companion piece. Cover. The title boldly reads, First Woman, NASA's Promise for Humanity. Issue number 1, Dream to Reality. In the top left of the cover hangs an enormous, bright magnesium moon with a much smaller orange circular orb beneath it and to the right. This is the planet Mars, off in the far distance. Our heroine, Callie Rodriguez, looks up into the star-filled night sky toward this moon and toward her hopeful. When you hear this sound, the page has turned. Enjoy. Moonbase in the not-too-distant future. We find Commander Callie Rodriguez in the galley of the lunar habitat. Callie is 32 years old, smart as a whip, and hungry for lunch. She looks over the variety of greens that have been produced in the Vegetation Laboratory, a gardening unit known simply as Veggie Maker 2030. RT, a pint-sized robot that Callie's spent years building, accompanies her. Since Callie's childhood, the two have been virtually inseparable. Though a highly sophisticated machine, RT can often come across like an annoying younger brother. Among his many other capabilities, RT now provides tongue-in-cheek commentary.
One woman, a scientist, an astronaut, on a journey unlike any other to find a salad bar in space.
Callie does her level best to ignore RT's annoying attempt at humor. She sits down and begins to eat the salad that she's put together.
They said it couldn't be done. They said there was no hope, but they didn't know her. Now, Callie Rodriguez, with spinach, kale, and broccoli, together again like you've never seen them before.
Actually, I had this same salad yesterday, so...
In a forgotten place, in a dangerous place, in a place where no one goes. She rolled the dice, and now she's turning up the heat. It doesn't get better than this.
Really? Oh, no.
Seeing is believing. Based on a true story. Callie Rodriguez, bigger and better than ever.
Bigger? I haven't gotten any bigger.
We hear her crewmate, Mission Specialist Dan Patel, approaching. Dan is 36 years old and an Asian American. A former Navy pilot, he sports a crew cut, a good sense of humor, and a laid-back nature. Dan is the guy to have around when things go sideways, or when faced with a somewhat passive-aggressive AI. Dan pops his head in.
You about ready to head out?
Yep, just finishing my salad.
All she wanted was to finish her salad, but someone wouldn't let her.
You gonna do the movie announcer voice the whole time?
Probably.
Great.
Callie and Dan suit up into their next-generation spacesuits as they prepare to exit the habitat and venture onto the lunar surface. These spacesuits are far lighter in weight and more form-fitting than spacesuits of the past, and far superior at keeping damaging moon dust out. Callie and Dan's mission? To drive to a drill site, inspect the drill, and service it if necessary. A drill like this, located primarily in dark craters in the South Pole, is a key source for ice, which is then converted to water for the astronauts to drink. This technology is crucial in establishing a sustainable, long-term presence on the moon.
Does Dan have to come?
Yes, of course Dan has to come. We're checking the spectrometer at the Augie 42 site. It's a two-person mission.
I could do that. We did lots of missions together before Dan came. Dan, I think you should stay here. Guard the habitat.
Guard it? Against what?
Well, things. Outside. Alone on the moon. One man was the only barrier between humanity and the things outside. Outside.
Dan's coming, RT.
Okay.
The three exit the airlock, heading for the rover.
Shotgun!
No, you have to be in the back.
No, but I don't like the back. I can't see as well.
Well, that's how the rover was designed.
Oh, why does Dan get the front? He just got here.
RT is the first one out onto the lunar surface, powered by his jetpack. As Callie and Dan leave the habitat, RT sees a team of 3 robotic contour crafters near the narrow roadway.
Oh, I'm gonna go say hi to my friends.
RT, we're about to leave.
It won't take long, I promise. I just want to say hi.
Fine, but don't go far.
The contour crafters are 3D printing technologies that build structures like landing pads using something called regolith, a mixture of powdery dust and broken rock collected from the lunar surface. RT flies towards the contour crafters with his jetpack as Callie and Dan do a safety check on the unpressurized, electric-powered lunar rover.
Battery is at peak.
Okay, temperature monitoring system looks good.
RT returns from his brief visit with the contour crafters, skimming above the surface.
Those guys are so awesome. They can build anything. They're making Dan his own special habitat. It'll be ready by the time we get back.
Dan doesn't need his own habitat.
Oh, but he does. Mission Control said. It'll be much better, Dan. You're gonna love it. Very roomy. You won't need to come into our habitat ever, really.
RT he suddenly starts to lose control of his jetpack and does a couple of unexpected pirouettes.
Careful there, little buddy. Low gravity is tricky.
Yeah, it'll be that much better.
Come on,
Dan.
we
You're
need to
gonna
put you in your
love
car
it.
seat.
Very roomy. You won't need to
Their
come into
mission
our habitat
underway.
ever,
Callie and
really.
Dan drive away from the habitat with RT placed securely in the back of the rover. As they head off further into the distance,
control
we
of
can
his
still
jetpack
hear and does a couple
Commander
of unexpected
Callie
pirouettes.
Rodriguez, the first woman on the moon, sets out on an important lunar mission with her trusted
Careful there,
robot,
little buddy.
RT.
And mission specialist Dan
Come
Patel.
on,
Who will soon be replaced by a lovable panda,
That's not happening.
by a lovable giraffe,
Nope.
by a
A new
lovable
planetary
gopher.
system found with 7 Earth and super
Yeah,
Earth-sized
I think
The rover slowly glides along the lunar surface, carefully avoiding its many bumps and craters.
Allie, I'm bored.
We'll be there soon.
No, it's gonna take 84 minutes and 15 seconds. 14 seconds. 13 seconds. That's not soon. Ooh, can we sing a song? If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
No singing.
I'm programmed to provide entertainment. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
RT, stop singing.
I'm not Alexa. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're happy and you know
RT,
it.
please stop.
Fine. How did we get here anyway?
We're following the route you mapped out.
No, I mean, here, the moon.
Well, you were there. We blasted off in the space launch system, remember?
Flashback to the Space Launch System, where we see NASA's most powerful rocket thrusting away from the bonds of Earth's gravity, and 2 minutes after ignition, releasing its 2 spent solid rocket boosters. It's a majestic sight to behold. And inside this, one of humanity's greatest technological achievements, we find RT, wedged upside down next to the space toilet in the Orion capsule.
You had your own special compartment in the Orion capsule?
Special compartment? You stowed me in the bathroom for 2 days.
Well, we needed to save space.
I am still traumatized by that experience. But that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, how did I get here? How did I come to be?
Callie looks at Dan, stunned. Dan is equally baffled.
Has a robot ever asked that question before?
I don't know. I don't think so.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
No
No
singing!
Then answer my question.
Well, I guess it all started in my dad's auto shop. He's who got me interested in building things and going places.
As Callie recounts her past, we travel back in time to when she was just a toddler, no more than 2 years old, back to an auto repair shop deep in the heart of Little Havana, a lively, predominantly Cuban neighborhood in Miami, Florida. In an industrial section of town, we come upon a modest auto repair shop. In the office of the shop, we find Callie's mom, Jean. She's in her 30s and African American, She sits behind the desk, attending to the bookkeeping. She glances over at the playpen in the corner and notices it's empty. Some toys strewn on the floor lead to the doorway. Jean walks over and calls into the repair bays.
Callie, where are you?
She's back here with me.
Responding is Callie's father, Arturo, also in his early 30s and of Cuban descent. Jean finds Arturo in one of the repair bays, working under the hood of a car. He's holding Callie football style, tucked against his chest, affording her a close-up bird's-eye view of a car engine.
What is she doing back here?
She's my assistant. Hey, check this out. Kali, what sound does a car make? See that? That's mechanical aptitude. She's a genius.
Really? Callie, are you hungry? I rest my case. Besides, our baby girl is not going to be working on car engines.
Back on the moon and in the present, Callie continues to tell her story.
Actually, my mom was wrong about that. I absolutely did end up working on car engines. Still do. I just had other interests too.
Yeah. How fascinating. But, when do I come into the picture, huh?
I'm getting there.
Another flashback, and we're back on Earth. Callie is now 5 years old. She, Jean, and Arturo are walking back from the grocery store with armfuls of groceries. Callie gazes up at the moon and avoids walking straight into a telephone pole by mere inches.
Callie, you gotta watch where you're going, honey. You can't always have your head up in the clouds.
But, full moon.
In the kitchen of their apartment, Jean and Arturo unload the groceries from their supermarket. There's an unbroken length of unrolled toilet paper that runs from the kitchen out through the center of the living room, tucking around the bend of the hallway and out of sight.
Where's little Miss Callie?
I don't know. But she shouldn't be hard to find. Follow the trail.
Jean and Arturo follow the toilet paper trail as it winds its way through the apartment and to Callie's bedroom, where we find Callie standing by her window. She gazes up at the moon through a crude makeshift telescope fashioned from 4 taped-together toilet paper rolls. Over her bedroom floor.
Looks like our girl found a new hobby.
You mean making a complete mess of the apartment?
How beautiful the moon is. I want to go.
Well, to do that, you have to be an astronaut.
That's what I'm gonna be.
Flash forward a couple of years. The scary decorations around the apartment tell us without a doubt it's Halloween. Jean and Arturo stand outside Callie's closed bedroom door. Jean knocks.
Come on, honey. You've been in there for hours.
Callie finally opens the door to reveal her in all her splendor. She's in a homemade astronaut suit made from tinfoil and a cardboard helmet.
I'm Brother Stina.
Who?
Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman in space. Looked it up on the internet.
Oh, and what is that behind you?
Holding a string, Callie pulls into the hallway what is the very first rudimentary iteration of RT.
That's my space robot.
Copy that, Mission Control.
Later that evening, Callie is out trick-or-treating in her costume with her mom and dad. She's already got a good haul of candy. Callie knocks on a door. It opens.
Look at you. Que linda.
My space robot wants candy too, please.
How can I say no?
Muchas gracias and happy Halloween.
Callie, Jean, and Arturo continue on to the next store.
He needs a name.
Who? Who needs a name?
My space robot, and he should talk and fly to the moon one day.
think that's the sugar talking.
Nuh-uh.
Okay, then. Do you know how we get you there?
A rocket?
Hey, I'm good, but I'm not that good.
No, by seeing how other people, follow in their footsteps.
That's right, mija. Hard work and a little luck. You can go anywhere.
Even the moon.
Back home in the apartment and wasting no time, Callie gets on her computer to do some research on this newfound passion of hers. Jean and Arturo look over her shoulder onto the computer screen. Callie's upset, her brow furrowed.
What's the matter, mija?
None of the astronauts look like us.
It's because you're looking at the older missions, honey. Times have changed. Look at these. New astronaut classes have far more women and people of color in them than they used to.
Arturo navigates to a page on the NASA website, which highlights more recent crew. The astronauts represented here vary as to gender, race, and ethnicity. Callie is heartened to see that these astronauts do, in fact, look like her. Arturo kneels down to look Callie in the
Mija, Chame, when your mom and I were, how we looked on the outside might have been an obstacle. Today, who you are is your superpower. You have to believe it. Here, corazón, for it to work.
Back on the moon, Commander Callie operates the rover with Mission Specialist Dan beside her and RT in the back. Clearly, RT has grown frustrated with the pacing of Callie's story.
And even on the moon, it was all about her.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I thought we were talking about how I got here.
We are. Just be patient.
Is sarcasm common with robots? Is that a thing?
It's not supposed to be. Maybe I should change his programming.
So is that when you knew you wanted to be an astronaut?
Oh, no. For the longest time, I thought I was going to be a professional soccer player or a race car driver or both.
Years earlier, Callie plays soccer with her dad when she's 10 years old. Arturo teaches her some of the finer points on how to handle the ball. Callie shoots the ball through her dad's legs, the equivalent of booting the ball in the back of the net. Arturo proudly puts his arms over his head.
Goal!
Later, we're at the auto repair shop as Callie works on cars with her dad. She's become quite the mechanic. She stands with a metric wrench in her hand, puzzling through how best to approach fixing the engine.
So, what's your next move, mija?
That's easy. Replace the carb.
Not so fast. Might just be a bad sensor. Always check that first. Being a good mechanic is just as much about not fixing things aren't broken.
That evening, Callie puts posters of female race car drivers on the wall, along with numerous female soccer stars. And now we see Callie at a youth soccer game. Sits dejectedly on the bench as the other older and bigger kids play. Her dad sees Callie's glum demeanor and comes over to her.
Hey, you doing me?
Not good. Why won't the coach play me?
Arturo frowned, glancing over at the coach, who's absorbed watching the game.
Well, I guess he's not sure what you can do.
I'm good.
I know, mija. I know. Oh, I guess you'll have to show him.
How? Even if he puts me in, it's just at the last minute, in the backfield. I never even get the ball.
Let me tell you something I've learned. You want to prove you can do something? Sometimes it's better to just do it. In this?
No.
Arturo thrusts his arms over his head.
Oh! Huh? You understand me now?
Callie lights up.
Papa?
In the last minutes of the game, Callie finally gets her chance to be on the field. Her coach has put her in as a defender. The opposing team's forward gets the ball and drives toward the goal. Callie slide tackles him and steals the ball away. Her coach looks on astonished.
Wait, what? Is she... Callie?
Callie hangs onto the ball and dashes upfield. She fakes out a midfielder and, at the edge of the penalty area, takes a blistering shot and scores.
That's my daughter!
I was pretty sure I was going to go pro after that. Then, Ms. Hernandez happened.
Callie is seated in a classroom, taking a math test. She sets her pencil down and glances up at the clock. Being the very first to finish, she rises and hands in her test to her teacher, Ms. Hernandez.
Is everything okay, Callie? You finished so early.
I think so, Miss Hernandez.
You know I'm here to help you do your best, right?
Okay.
That evening, Arturo is working under the hood of a car in one of the repair bays. A customer enters the shop and gets Arturo's attention.
You must be Callie Rodriguez's dad.
I am. How can I help you?
I am Callie's math teacher.
Arturo stops what he's doing and wipes his hands off with a rag. To Arturo's mind, the presence of one of Callie's teachers can be nothing but bad.
Okay. Is there something wrong? I tell her to make sure she does all her homework.
No, she's doing fine. Better than fine. In fact, I think my class is too easy for her.
Too easy?
She needs to be more challenged. There's a special STEM program in the district that Callie should be part of. And based on the doodles I keep seeing on her homework, I also think she should go to space camp.
Space camp? We can't afford...
Please, leave that to me. There's a scholarship program. I think she has a real shot.
On this page, we see 4 quadrant panels wherein Callie is taking part in activities at Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama. In the top left panel, we see Callie on a bus, excitedly entering the Space Camp ground. She passes the iconic Space Camp sign with the NASA meatball logo emblazoned on it. In the upper right panel, we find Callie tethered to a pulley system, doing mock satellite repairs, pulling an antenna from a satellite. The bottom left panel, we find Callie on the multi-axis trainer, which is akin to a giant gyroscope. Here, she learns how to correct an uncontrolled spin. And in the lower right panel, Callie sits on the 1/6 gravity chair, doing a moonwalk simulation.
One thing I learned at space camp, exploration is in our DNA. And that's when I truly decided I wanted to be an astronaut. To help me reach my goal, Ms. Hernandez recommended me for a magnet junior high for math and science. I had to take a bus there and didn't know anyone, but I was excited. I just didn't realize how tough it was going.
Callie enters the new classroom, and immediately all the students in attendance look directly at her. It's intimidating. You can't help but notice that not many of these kids look like.
I'd like everyone's attention. Today we have a new classmate joining us. Welcome, Callista, and please take a seat.
Callie takes a seat near the front, nervously settling in. She looks up at the whiteboard to find it's filled with complicated equations, and the teacher is speaking in what amounts to a foreign language.
Okay, reduce the following fraction to its lowest terms. X to the 6 plus a squared x to the 3rd y over x to the 6 minus y to the 4th times y squared. Now, to solve it, you have to use the difference of squares formula. Any questions? Good. Okay, we have a quiz on this section next week.
Feeling completely lost, Callie is afraid to raise her hand. The following week, her teacher hands back the test results to the students.
Evidently, this was a tough test for some, anyway.
Callie looks down at her quiz. There are a lot of X's, indicating wrong answer. That night, Arturo and Jean enter Callie's bedroom to find her taking down the many pictures of astronauts from her walls. Callie has her head hung low. She's unable to look either parent directly in the eye.
What's going on?
Not smart enough for this new school. The truth is, I'm lost half the time.
That feels uncomfortable.
But doesn't feel very good. I got a D on a test, Papa. A D! Almost an F. Sorry I disappointed.
Ah, you haven't. Let me tell you a little secret. The harder you study, the smarter you'll get. You look in the mirror and you feel you've done the best work you can do. That's all we can ask.
Yeah, you never fail. Just not reaching high enough. Okay, baby?
Now, let me see if I can help.
Arturo looks over her exam and quickly decides,
Yeah, that would be a hard no. This is way over my head.
Oh, mine too, I'm afraid. Have a science fair coming up. Could use your help.
I don't think they're gonna allow parents to help you with your project.
You wouldn't be helping, technically. You'd just be making sure I don't burn the shop down.
In Arturo's place of business a short time later, Callie and her dad look over a basic schematic she's drawn up for the new iteration of her space robot. Under the watchful eye of Arturo and taking all necessary safety precautions, Callie solders together some old used car parts. It's an arduous task that will eventually transform her fanciful vision of a space robot into a concrete reality. After many hours, Callie has built a finished product, Space Robot version 2.0. Roughly waist high, it's composed of a plastic and metal body, 4 wheels, an AC motor for a drivetrain, a set of sensors, and a head that looks very much like the original toilet paper roll head she crafted for her Halloween space robot years ago. Later, she unveils her new creation before a panel of 3 judges at the science fair. Callie uses the remote control to show her robot's functionality, making it roll past them.
I can go in reverse, too. All you have to do is press this button.
Impressive. And you made this yourself?
It was all her idea.
And what do you call this contraption?
Think.
After 10 minutes of deliberation amongst the panel, one of the judges steps forward to announce,
Okay, and first place goes to Callie Rodriguez and her used car parts robot guy.
After proudly applauding with Jean, Arturo comes down from the bleachers and whispers into Callie's ear.
We'll need to figure out a name.
We flash forward to Callie on the moon at the Augie 42 drill site as they disembark from the rover. RT is digesting the story he's been told thus far.
All his life, he wondered where he came from, who he really was. And then he learned he was just a car.
You're not a car.
You just said I was a car. I'm made of used car parts.
You were then, not now, obviously.
But basically, I was your first car.
Well, not exactly.
The scene flashes back to Earth. Callie is a senior in high school. She sits before her computer with a finger poised on the return button. Her mom stands behind her, taking in the moment. They've both worked so hard.
Send. There it goes. Very last college application. Baby, that was a lot of work. But you did it. I can't believe I'm done. Congratulations. Oh, and be sure to go to Daddy's shop. He has something to show you.
Callie arrives at the repair shop to find her dad standing out in front, smiling.
Hey, Papa. Mom said you wanted to show me something?
I suppose I might. Come on, follow me.
Arturo takes her out into the yard. Callie can't help but notice that her dad's chest is puffed out a bit, as if he's proud of something. End up in front of a car that's covered by a tarp. He looks at Callie and with a flourish pulls the cover off the car, revealing a beautifully restored classic muscle car under. Its color is yellow gold and it has mag wheels. It is absolutely spotless, without any dings, unlike just about every other car that finds its way into the shop.
Oh, what do you think?
Callie runs her hand over the sinuous lines of the hood of the car.
I think. It's a 72 Mustang. It's beautiful. Whose is it?
I've been working on it for about a year. Yours now.
But I haven't done anything or gotten in anywhere yet.
Arturo dangles the key to the car in his right hand. Callie is still reluctant.
We're not giving you this, what you've done, mija. We're giving it to you, type of person you are.
I loved that car, and my dad loved seeing me drive it. Proud. Everything was going so great, falling into place.
Months later, Callie is in the booth of a burger joint, eating and enjoying some hang time with a couple of friends. Her phone rings.
Hey, Mom, what's up?
Hey, you need to come home as soon as possible. Terrible has happened.
Callie gets off the phone and rushes out the door.
When I got home, my mom told me that my dad had passed away from a sudden heart attack. 1 minute there, the next minute gone. Life in general became a lot less sweet.
It's night. A full moon illuminates Callie alone on a soccer field, listlessly kicking the ball, trying in vain to process the incomprehensible.
For a long time after my dad died, I didn't care about anything. School, not soccer, not even my dream of becoming an astronaut. What would have upset my dad the most was if I gave up. So I couldn't. Now that he was gone, I also needed to help my mom.
Callie sits at her desk in front of her computer. Receives a college acceptance. Electronic explosion of confetti, but she feels anything but celebratory as her mom Jean enters.
Congratulations, baby. UCLA was your #1 pick. Father would be so proud.
I know, but it's not my top pick anymore.
Uh-huh. Well, where do you want to go?
Florida A&M.
What? Why? I mean, it's a great school, but...
It was your top pick.
Well, yeah, but you got into...
And it's close to home. I can come back on the weekends to help you shop.
No way. Fine.
I know, Mom, but mine's made up.
Up on the moon, we find Callie, Dan, and RT checking the settings on the Augie 42 drill. They check the gauges, and everything appears to be operating to spec. As they continue going through their maintenance checklist, Callie pauses. Recounting this difficult period in her life has touched a chord in her. She looks off at the vast lunar expanse, mind far away. Dan's voice brings her back.
Dad sounds like he was an amazing person.
He was. He's a big part of why I'm here.
I wish I had gotten to meet him.
He would have loved that. You're named after him, you know.
That event is not in my memory.
Well, that's because you didn't have a memory when that happened.
Back on Earth, we see Callie arrive at Florida A&M, one of the first historically black colleges and universities. She walks through the leafy ground, marveling at the stately brick building. In her dorm room, Callie meets her roommate for the first time as she settles in. She opens a packing box carefully, revealing its very special content.
Wow, that robot's so cool. Does it have a name?
I never officially named him.
Callie then unpacks something else near and dear to her heart. A picture of herself as a baby, Dad. Places it on her bookshelf.
What? From now on, his name is RT. Short for Arturo, my dad's name.
Back on the moon.
And that's when you got your name.
But I still couldn't talk?
No, my ill-advised decision to give you the power of speech came later.
Callie and Dan finish cleaning the dust off the spectrometer, the highly accurate device that helps identify the substances in the lunar material being mined, and then check the sample piles created by the Augie 42 drill. RT continues to buzz around them using his jetpack. At that moment, the Macy Jemison Lunar Outpost Commander chimes in over their headsets.
Callie, Lunar Outpost Command here. Got a couple of things to go over.
Up in the Macy Jemison Lunar Outpost, the space station orbiting around the moon, the outpost commander can see Callie, Dan, and RT on a live video stream.
We have a puffer in trouble out by the lava tunnel site. They've been doing 3D imaging of the tunnel from above. One of them got its wheel stuck. Mission Control wants you to go check it out.
Roger that. How far is it?
Behind the commander, other Lunar Outpost astronauts go about their business. One at the Space Weather Monitor, another operates the camera station, someone rides an exercise bike, another makes food in the kitchen.
About 10 kilometers to your north, 25 minutes from where you are. Sending you coordinates now.
That'll put us farther out from base.
Agreed, but we need that little guy operational. We'll be getting eyes on it shortly. We'll send you images as soon as we do.
Roger that.
You also want to hear the rest of the story of how RT became the RT we know and love.
Really? Okay, you asked for it.
Callie, Dan, and RT make their way back to the rover, go in search of the stuck puffer. Callie straps RT into his compartment and fires up the vehicle.
I ended up getting my bachelor's and master's at Florida A&M, which was pretty awesome.
On Earth, Callie works on her master's degree at Florida A&M. The classrooms are well equipped. Computers at every workstation, plenty of research materials. Eager students fill the lecture halls to listen to the passionate and engaged professors, although she's one of the few women in her graduate-level STEM classes.
And it let me stay close to my mom.
Summertime in Miami. At the auto shop, now called Arturo y Familia, Callie has her head under the hood of a customer's car, wrenching away at a part. She finishes tightening a bolt and straightens up, satisfied with her work, just as her mom pokes her head out of the office. Callie has grease all over her nose again, just like when she was a little kid. The two of them share a grin. Graduation approaches at Florida A&M. Callie strolls through a job fair on campus with a few of her classmates. Well-known corporations have booths set up, looking to attract top students, and the high-tech firms are especially interested in chatting with Callie. But as she listens to a pitch from a recruiter from a giant computer company, her eye catches the Teach for America booth across the quad. She thanks the nicely suited recruiter and strolls over to the nonprofit's table, intrigued.
I had lots of offers. I could have made much more money doing something else, but I wanted to make a difference for kids like me. I wanted them to know what was possible.
In an inner-city classroom, Callie stands before a blackboard, excitedly teaching artificial intelligence concepts to a group of rapt elementary school kids. To her awestruck students, she already seems like someone who's arrived with special knowledge from another planet. Except she looks just like them. At recess, Callie plays soccer with her students, laughing and hooting as she teaches them the finer points of dribbling a soccer ball. Definitely still got it.
I knew I could pursue a corporate job, and I thought the reason I was putting it off was that I wasn't ready. Then my mom reminded me of something I'd forgotten about.
Callie and her mom have dinner. Jean's made one of her favorites, arroz con pollo with black beans. Callie sits back, full and satisfied. Jean smiles.
You know, it's been 2 years since you received your graduate degree. Had 2 years of experience in the field. You could apply now.
To what?
To become an astronaut. Why not? You still want to be one, don't you?
Who wouldn't? A kid's dream. I'm an adult now. Besides, the chances of getting picked are between slim and none.
Ah, kid. Hard things are easy than anyone could do.
You sound like Papa.
What he said then is still true today. But don't do it. Gonna do it. Do it for yourself.
Jean hands her the homemade telescope Callie made from toilet paper rolls so many years ago.
Oh, and look what I found when I was cleaning out your room. Child's dream is every bit as real as an adult's.
Later, Callie stands in her room, alone, wistfully looking up at the glorious crescent moon through her old makeshift telescope.
Still just as beautiful.
Callie sits at her desk before her old computer. We can see the page she's looking at over her shoulder. NASA astronaut application. Back in the present, the Lunar Outpost commander asks a question over her mic. Behind the commander, A few of the other Lunar Outpost astronauts have drifted over to listen to the conversation with Callie.
Did you get in on your first try?
Nope, not on the first try. Or the second. Or the third, or the fourth for that matter.
So what did you do?
I remembered what my dad told me when I was a kid, first looking into being an astronaut. He said I should follow in their footsteps. I figured out what made them stand out and did exactly that.
Back on Earth, Callie scuba dives, taking pictures of a curious octopus with her underwater camera. She takes off in a small Cessna airplane, a flight instructor watching attentively beside her. She's doing everything right. She takes a class in Japanese and bows to a classmate.
Konnichiwa.
On the moon, Callie, Dan, and RT slowly bump along in the rover, heading towards the coordinates where the puffer is stuck. The flat, dry expanse stretches in all directions, seemingly.
But because I couldn't just endlessly wait for NASA to figure out how awesome I was, I go back to school.
She turns to RT.
That's where you come in.
On Earth, Callie now walks the beautiful Greek-themed campus of MIT. She sits in a packed lecture hall. 600 students filling the seats as a young professor scrawls equations about machine learning on the chalkboard. In a classroom, Callie talks excitedly with a much smaller group of students casually draped over their desks. They listen closely as she makes a point.
I became part of a brilliant research team. We wanted to show how AI could be used to help elementary school kids who were struggling with particular subjects. With AI, everyone can have a tutor. Then we got an opportunity to show off what we could do at a competition at the university. But we just weren't getting the results we wanted. You were having trouble coming up with the right answers.
Okay, that was clearly your fault. You were the one trying to get a car to talk.
You've got those images of the downed puffer, Callie. Sending to you now.
Callie checks the rover's dashboard computer display, sees the images of the stranded puffer. The wheeled robot appears to be lying on its side in a ditch or gully.
Got him.
Roger that. You're passing the skylight opening now, and should be at the puffer's location soon.
Callie and Dan look over to see the lip of an enormous skylight, an opening the lunar surface off to their right. Telling how far across the opening stretches, or how deep it may go. From their angle in the rover, looks like the edge of a giant, dormant volcano.
By the way, we're all having a problem believing there was ever a time when RT didn't have all the answers.
Oh, there certainly was. But I have an idea on how to fix it.
Back on Earth, in a cramped office, Callie pitches her solution to the team's faculty advisor. He listens stoically as she talks, doubt written on his face.
We could let the algorithm learn unsupervised.
What?
We could just open the search parameters and let it load as much data as it finds before tomorrow. Without supervising what it gets, maybe it'll load enough to get more right answers.
That's not a good idea. You might lose all the data you've already loaded. Besides, there isn't time to do all the coding to change it. Callie, sometimes you need to accept that your approach didn't work and start over. That's how science works.
I didn't want to start over. I thought it could work.
Callie sprawls with the members of her research team in her apartment. They all toy with their delivery pizza, depressed at being shot down. Then, Callie abruptly stands up.
Wait a minute. I got it.
She puts her hands above her head.
Go!
What?
Sometimes you just have to do it.
He said no.
Not really. He said he didn't think it was a good idea. He didn't say we couldn't do it. Besides, he's our advisor. The decision is up to us. It's our team.
Callie can see the doubt on their faces.
I'll take full responsibility, okay? It's my idea. I'll take the blame if it doesn't work.
Okay.
Later that night on campus, Callie lets herself into the darkened computer lab. She settles in front of her powerful computer, a more sophisticated version of RT than we've seen before, sitting on the floor beside it. She enters a complex series of code on the keyboard, changing how the artificial intelligence algorithm she and her team created will now load and evaluate data. Callie sits back as new data starts to load.
on. Learn fast. You can.
And as the servers begin to whir, RT's eyes flicker slightly. The next day, at the presentation, Callie and her team watch nervously as a class of school kids who have been brought in for the competition ask RT questions. A group of professors from the university look on, judging RT's responses. A young boy raises his hand.
Yeah, RT, we're taking a test on Antarctica. Can you tell us exactly how big Antarctica is?
Antarctica? Antarctica! Now, a young boy on an island in a small town in a film like no other. In Antarctica! A heartwarming comedy about family and revenge. There was something in the basement. In Antarctica!
The kids all stare at RT, confused. The judges share baffled glances. Callie's faculty advisor starts quietly freaking out. He whispers to her.
What's happening? Why is it doing that?
We let it go online, unsupervised. I know you said it wasn't a good idea, but we did. And, I don't know, sounds like it must have found YouTube.
Don't open the door. Don't go in the closet. And don't answer the phone. This summer, in Antarctica, an enormous python who just couldn't fit in a wacky comedy about love and a perfect killing machine and true friends growing up in Antarctica.
The judges all stare at Callie and her team, blank-faced. Then, the faculty advisor throws his hands up in the air and stomps off in disgust.
Yeah, no, not a goal. My professor was not pleased. He actually took me off his other research teams.
Back on Earth, Callie works on her AI research in the computer lab. She's not the only person there. Other students work on projects, most of them in teams, but Callie's on her own. Then one of her former research team members enters the lab. Callie gives her a tentative wave. The woman gives her a slight wave back, but keeps walking, choosing to sit on the other side of the lab instead. Callie sighs, disappointed.
After that, my prospects at the university didn't look so great. I was feeling pretty unsure about things, honestly. Then, oddly enough, I got my first NASA interview request.
Callie arrives in her vintage Mustang at the gates of NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. Massive complex occupying over 1,600 acres. This is the nerve center of the U.S. space program. She peers at the storied buildings inside, awed and nervous, as a uniformed guard checks her ID. Later, in a conference room on the campus, Callie stands before about 10 members of the Astronaut Selection Board, the group of former astronauts, scientists, and other experts who choose the candidates for the next astronaut class.
I was ridiculously nervous, and, I talk too much when I'm nervous, so when they asked how my research was going, I ended up telling them what happened with the presentation.
Wait, what? It talks in movie trailers?
Well, yeah, kind of.
The selection board member, a no-nonsense former NASA mission commander, looks at the others, surprised.
So, let me get this straight. You decided not to take the advice of your faculty advisor?
Right, we didn't. I didn't.
But if you had followed his advice, this wouldn't have happened. Your robot, RT, would not be talking in movie trailers?
Right. Probably not.
I thought for sure I'd blown it. But guess that's what made them give me a second interview.
Weeks later, Callie, in her apartment, scrolls through email, having her first cup of coffee of the day. She suddenly sits bolt upright. There's an email from NASA. Nervously opens it, one eye closed, afraid to read its contents. And then lets out a whoop. A second interview. Back at the Johnson Space Center, Callie again pulls up to the guard gate, but this time, perched on the passenger seat beside her, wearing his seatbelt, is RT. The uniformed guard, the same guy as before, gives him a quizzical look, checks her ID again. Then he waves them through. This is NASA after. Later, in the same conference room, Callie again stands before the selection board. But this time, she has RT set up beside her.
They wanted to know more about my goals and what I hoped to accomplish if I made it to the moon. But mostly, they wanted to talk to you.
So he responds coherently to queries now.
Well, mostly.
And we can ask whatever we want?
Yep.
Well, RT, what do you think? Should Callie be selected as an astronaut candidate?
The board members wait expectantly, but RT doesn't respond. Callie shoots him a glance. He's choosing now to go silent? Wait. Then RT finally speaks.
Callie?
Yes?
She was a small-town waitress.
No.
A single mother.
No.
And a lethal assassin.
RT.
She was a small girl with a big dream and a terrible secret. This summer, this fall, this Christmas, she's back. They're back. You'll be back on an asteroid hurtling towards Earth.
Oh, that's interesting. He's combining data from the trailers to...
One man, two men, three women. Wacky scientists. They always had each other's backs. Until one turned up dead on an asteroid hurtling towards Earth.
Callie sees this is going sideways fast and tries to save it.
I guess there were a lot of asteroid movies? Anyway, maybe we should...
They just wanted to have a good time. But there was no time left, because their worst nightmare was coming to visit Callie. Cryogenically frozen. Genetically altered. More than human.
Yeah. None of that is true.
And she won't take no for an answer. Buckle up, saddle up, and put the pedal to the metal. As a team of lovable oddballs with just one chance for survival. Find laughter and heartbreak. True love.
And Santa!
On an asteroid hurtling towards Earth.
Santa?
Yippee-ki-yay!
The selection board members all sit there mute. Callie stands, frozen in place.
Okay. Thanks for coming in.
Up on the lunar outpost, pretty much all of the lunar outpost crew now cluster around the console, watching the live video feed of Callie, Dan, and RT.
So, yeah, that didn't go so great. Figured over.
She thought it was over.
But after that is when I got the call.
But then she got the call.
I did, and you were there.
And I was there. I was?
Callie has a pasta dinner with her roommates in her apartment. Her friends laugh and joke in an effort to keep her spirits up. We can see she's preoccupied and still bummed out about how the interview went. RT sits in sleep mode in the corner of the room. Then the phone rings. Her roommate grabs it, then excitedly hands the phone to Callie. Listens for a moment, and then her face lights up. She screams with surprise, unable to contain her excitement, and her friend snaps a pic of the moment. Months later, Callie is back at the Johnson Space Center for the swearing-in ceremony for the new astronaut candidate class, known colloquially at NASA as ASCAN. She stands on the stage, overwhelmed and amazed to be there amongst the other brilliant selectees. It all seems completely unreal. She looks out over the crowd. The dream she's held for so many years is actually coming true. Jean and Ms. Hernandez watch from the audience, so proud of the girl.
So, basically, I'm the reason you're an astronaut. You're welcome.
Well, something like that. They figured you'd eventually learn how to answer a question coherently. Sadly, we're still waiting for that day.
Hey.
Callie, you threw our whole schedule off up here. We've all just been listening to you. RT will probably end up with even more Twitter followers once that story gets out. By the way, you're just about to come up on the first puffer.
Callie, Dan, and RT crest a small rise in the rover and see a puffer up ahead in the distance. Puffers are shoebox-sized, two-wheeled robots designed to work in teams to explore extreme environments. They can even create maps and identify hazards in hard-to-reach terrain, such as lava tunnels below the moon's surface. The lone puffer turns towards the rover as they approach, and RT calls out.
Spot! Hey, Spot! Spot! Here, boy! Who's a good boy?
The puffer immediately trundles towards them and starts turning around in fast circles, like puppies do when they're excited.
Spot?
He names all the puffers.
Callie and Dan exit the rover as the puffer peels around their legs. It even has a tail for stabilization on tricky surfaces.
Good boy! Now, where's Daisy?
The puffer turns and starts heading towards a nearby depression in the lunar landscape. Callie, Dan, and RT follow. A short distance later, they find the second puffer on its side in a shallow gully. The small robot senses them, and its wheels churn uselessly, one in the air and one in the soft moon dust.
Aw, must have lost its balance.
Callie and Dan carefully make their way down into the gully and right the stranded puffer. Soon as it's back on its wheels, it heads back up the incline to its partner, Spot. Turn happy circles around each other. Dan and Callie start back towards the rover.
One man, one woman, saving the planet one puffer at a time.
No. Happening to you, too.
Urgent alert, Lunar Team. There was just a massive solar flare. Unpredicted. Heavy solar winds are already heading your way. Get back to base immediately.
Copy that. ETA?
Radiation levels will become unsafe in approximately 38 minutes.
We're farther from base than planned. We can't make it back that quickly.
Disable the speed governor on the rover and maintain 46 kilometers per hour. That's twice the normal speed. But any delays will leave you exposed. If there's an accident...
There's no one to come get us. Other options? Any shelter at the second drill site?
Negative. You need to get going.
Callie hesitates, thinking, got to be another way. Then she has an idea.
What about the lava tunnel?
Negative. We haven't even sent a probe down there yet.
But we've already got 3D images from the puffers. We know what it looks like inside, and we'd be safe there.
Yes, but we'd still need to get you down. The vertical drop, over 50 meters.
Right. Guess we're driving.
Wait! The winch on the rover. You could use it to lower yourselves.
Callie considers that, calculating the odds. After a moment, she nods to herself.
Mission control? I think that'll work.
Copy that. We will evaluate.
There's radio silence as the mission control team confers. Callie and Dan wait tensely. Then...
Callie, the consensus is sheltering in the tunnel could be a better solution, but either option presents risks. You're on the ground. It's your call.
Callie and Dan share a look. He shrugs.
I'm in.
Then he turns to RT, gives him a wink.
And you, little robot man, have a very big brain.
RT's digital face lights up with a smile. Moments later at the rover, Callie straps RT into his seat and then climbs in behind the wheel. Dan rides shotgun. She hits the starter switch. Nothing happens. Tries it again. Still.
Uh-oh. Dead.
A short time later, Callie kneels, head under the rover, looking at the battery packs. Dan now sits behind the wheel, ready to try the starter again on her signal. Are both very aware of the time ticking away.
Could be the dust. It gets in everything.
Could be. Or it could just be a sensor telling the engine to shut off because it thinks there's too much radiation to drive. Like this one.
She yanks on something in the engine, then triumphantly holds a sensor up in her gloved hand.
Try her now.
Dan presses the starter, and the rover immediately fires up.
Got power. How did you...
A lesson a proud mechanic's daughter learned when she was a kid. Let's jam.
Shortly afterward, the crew arrive at the skylight, a gaping hole leading down to the enormous lava tunnel below. RT buzzes over the opening.
I can go down and get a visual before you descend to make sure the floor is safe.
Go, but carefully, RT. No barrel rolls.
RT slowly descends into the opening using his jetpack. He turns on his lights to illuminate the yawning blackness. But even with them on, the darkness seems to stretch off endlessly in all directions. On the surface, Callie and Dan position the rover near the lip of the skylight and embed its anchoring struts firmly in the regolith, the powdery dust covering the moon's surface. The winch on the front of the rover points towards the opening. Can't get too close to the edge. The vehicle has to function as the anchor for their descent. RT suddenly pops up from below and buzzes over to them.
Okay, the tunnel floor is flat, no hazards, and the geology is stable.
Dan, I'll lower you, then program the winch to lower me automatically afterwards. We can activate it remotely to pull us back up after the storm passes.
Callie, we're estimating 22 minutes before the flare hits.
Roger that.
Callie and Dan cinch the winch cable securely to his spacesuit. Then, Callie goes to the winch controls and plays out the cable as Dan slowly walks backward to the lip. Gets to the edge of the skylight. Share a look.
Lean back, push off, and trust the cable. I'll go slow. Tell me if I need to adjust the pace.
Dan nods, then pushes off and disappears from view. In the tunnel, Dan slowly descends, the cable lowering him from above. He dangles in the cold darkness, his helmet light illuminating just a small portion of the vast space around him, until RT buzzes down from above, his headlights blazing.
Hello, Astronaut Dan. Enjoying your trip? I shall accompany you.
On the surface, Callie monitors the winch, noting the amount of cable slowly being played out. Then, she hears Dan in her headset.
Okay. Bottom now.
Now on the floor of the vast lava tunnel, Dan unhooks his harness and looks around. It's incredible. The tunnel is much bigger than Dan expected, the darkness yawning off in every direction.
You can pull it back up. It's awesome down here, by the way.
On the surface, Callie operates the winch to retract the cable, then enters the settings in the rover's database so they can be repeated. No human will be guiding her descent. She will have to trust the rover's onboard computer. A moment later, RT pops back up out of the skylight.
I'm back!
Callie attaches her own harness to the cable and then, using the Bluetooth keyboard built into her suit, keys in the commands to activate the winch remotely. It starts up. The cable begins to play out. Callie slowly walks backwards to the edge of the skylight.
Lunar Outpost, I'm descending into the tunnel now. What's the ETA on the flare?
You've got about 8 minutes until it gets to you.
Oh, good. Plenty of time.
Good luck, Callie. We'll keep you apprised of radiation levels on the surface.
Ready?
Callie looks over her shoulder into the skylight. It's a long way down in darkness.
Here goes.
She pushes off and falls backwards into the skylight, the slack in the cable allowing her to swing out from the edge and then back in. One more push off the wall, and then she's suspended vertically in the tunnel, her weight held by the steadily lowering cable. She spins around slowly, peering into the darkness on all sides.
Okay, descent is underway.
RT buzzes down next to her, throwing light into the space.
Hey, what you doing? Hanging out? Just hanging around? You know, you kind of left me hanging up there. I've literally got an endless supply of puns. Hang on, I got more.
Lee.
Hey, watch this. I look like a seal.
He does a slow flip in the air next to her.
Wish you had a jetpack now, don't you?
Don't rub it in.
You know, Astronaut Dan really likes it down in the lava tunnel. Hey, maybe he should stay there and we can go back to the habitat.
You know I can hear you, right?
That's the idea.
Callie, do you read? Callie, we're getting a lot of...
RT's eyes suddenly turn into crosses. His lights go out. She stares as he floats away into the darkness, wholly without power now, spinning end over end.
RT? RT, what's happening?
She loses sound, just as the cable suddenly bumps to an abrupt stop. She speaks urgently into her mic.
Lunar Outpost, something's going on. The descent stopped. I'm no longer moving, I'm just... Dan, are you there? I'm about halfway down, but the cable stopped. I don't know what... Dan!
No answer from anywhere. She fumbles around in her suit and finally finds a small solar-powered flashlight. She flips it on.
Hello, Mission Control. This is Rodriguez. Are you receiving? Lunar Outpost? Dan.
Nothing but silence. Callie hangs there in darkness. Vast space surrounding her on all sides. Flashlight forming just a small face.
Hello? Is anyone there? Anyone?
Join Callie's journey to the moon by scanning the QR codes and downloading the First Woman app. For additional information and more content, visit www.nasa.gov/specials/Callie First. Inside back cover. Other First Women. While Callie is a fictional character, the first female